Chief Legal Analyst Khalif Rhodes now joining us about this case. So he is acquitted by the jury, which now has a lot of people, upset and on different sides. Do you think they made the right decision, or what are your thoughts on this case?
I got lots of thoughts. Personal perspective, then legal perspective. Obviously from Philadelphia, worked in New York. I would ride the train from Philly to Manhattan, get into Penn Station, and you can get on the E or the F to go to Queens. That F train is the one that he was on. I've been on that train a number of mornings, tired, extremely crowded, elbow to elbow, not able to move around. I saw this video. It reminded me of when I worked there. So you have people on there like this individual, sometimes bothering people, sometimes asking for things. This video looked like he may have been attempting to attack people or verbally threatening people. And so to your question, do I think the jury got it right? You have an opportunity and an obligation to defend yourself. That's lawful. You also have a lawful right to defend others. So the defense of others would have been the defense. That's an affirmative defense, meaning if the jury can believe that my defense is adequate, then I can't be convicted of the charge. And that's what the jury believed. They went in with a higher charge. The judge only gave them a lesser included charge to even take back. So the state failed to prove the larger manslaughter charge already. So when you're talking about that reckless indifference, that ability to stop, was it reasonable is the question. Did he hold him, and would a reasonable person believe that he held him in a manner for that long? 6 minutes is the time frame they're talking about. I think that was reasonable because you don't know if this person's going to get up and continue to attack you. Everyone can Monday morning quarterback it. But if I'm in that situation and I'm defending him, or if I'm in that situation and I'm on a train and he's making threats, it could have turned out the other way, where he decided that I have the ability to stop this person and I didn't do anything. And now 3 or 4 people were ended up dead. But it didn't happen like that. He ended up stopping him from attacking people, restraining him. And yes, other people were saying stop. Okay, he stopped. But at some point, when you're in the heat of the battle and the blood is boiling, he's just trying to make sure everyone gets off the train alive. And unfortunately, yes, someone did die that day, but I think it was a defensible and a justifiable death.
Khalif, walk us through what happened in terms of legal proceedings, because last week they had a hung jury and then they come back with this lesser sentence and they find him not guilty of that. But I think normally when you think a hung jury, you think, okay, there's a mistrial there, there's going to be a chance for another trial, but that's not what happened here.
Yeah, they had an opportunity for the lesser included to send them back with that, and I think that was probably the only charge that should have been charged was the recklessness. I mean, I followed this from the day it happened. I don't even think he should have been charged. I think in a situation like this, where a person has turned himself in, where they have walked to the police station and said, yes, this is me, I did this, I stopped the harm from happening. And I think everyone is saying that, yes, he did stop something from happening. It's just the duration of the time. They think that it was too long of a chokehold. That maneuver they used has been used in the past by law enforcement officers, has sparked frustration in tons of communities. But in this situation, it was justifiable to stop. It's just the length. To your question about the lesser included, that happens a lot of times. Typically, the judge will send it back. Originally, they came back with saying they couldn't come to a decision on the higher charge and came back with a acquittal on the lower charge.
Civilian vigilantism, a fancy word of basically civilians taking matters into their own hands. Does it set a bad precedent?
I think if that's what this was, it would. But I don't think that's what this was. I don't think he was deciding, you know what, I'm going to take matters in my own hands. I think that he saw a dangerous situation and he did what you would want every citizen to do. Not record with their phone and I got to catch this shot so it can go viral. He stepped in and attempted to save folks. And in the process of doing that, unfortunately, the other individual died. This person underscores other situations we have in our society. Mental health is real. There's a real mental health crisis happening in this country. And that individual was having a mental health crisis. But him to attempt to restrain him and stop him, that's what you want people to do. So you don't want to have a precedent of saying, don't touch. Stand back, you can be convicted of murder now. That would be a negative effect.